Homelander is the leader of the Seven, a powerful group of superheroes owned and run by To.A.O.D International. At first glance, the Seven seem commanding and virtuous, at the center of the high-profile mission to defend America against all threats. In the world of the boys, the superhero industry dominates everything from politics to consumerism to entertainment. At the height of the Seven's popularity, Homelander was the most recognizable and celebrated member of the team. With his distinctive features, bright smile, and patriotic superhero suit, the blue-eyed blonde-haired hero is considered by many to be the perfect symbol of duty, excellence, and traditional values. On top of that, he also has the best powers. Similar to a certain Kryptonian hero, Homelander has heat rays, super strength, endurance, flight ability, and X-ray vision. Homelander is impervious to all known threats, can withstand extreme temperatures, and survive devastating attacks. There is no known weapon that could hurt him. In this video, we want to talk about the hidden meaning behind his actions and how he became the evil person he became later on in his life. And of course, if you love this, you can subscribe to our channel, A.O.D, for more videos like this. And if you did, let's talk more about Homelander. Homelander oozes charm and confidence, beguiling everyone with his confident smile and hopeful promises. But hidden from public view, a truer form reveals itself. Homelander embodies the self-centeredness and materialism of the modern world and glorifies competitiveness, rugged individualism, and dominance. He is deeply impressed by superior personality and fervently embodies the virtues of an American defender. He pines for his image and is often unsure where his true self ends and his performance begins. A social go-getter, Homelander is often the first to go on camera and make maudlin declarations about his unyielding commitment to justice. He relishes his elite status and sees himself through the eyes of the people who hang on every word. He is a god among men, and it's clear that Homelander takes his pleasure not in genuine emotional relationships with his followers, but in the dynamic of power. He is willing to do anything, even execute innocent people who might tarnish his image, to maintain a reputation of being the good guy. In his youth, Homelander spent most of his waking hours completing tasks, endurance tests, and being pushed to his limits by eager experimenters, a kind of bond formed with his creators. He received the attention of his surrogate supervisors, but only through a narrow and relentless expectation to perform. A contingency. The pressure created a transactional relationship schema for Homelander. When he masters his powers, he receives affirming words and time with his caregivers. When he fails, he faces further tortures, testing, and criticism. Homelander later admits that he often felt alone and scared as he learned to manage his inhuman abilities. Comparing it to drowning, this little superhero was not born cold and uncaring. He was often overwhelmed by emotions, struggling with fear, uncertainty, and hopelessness, but he was never taught how to regulate them. I had to figure everything out on my own. Attachment matters. In addition to sensory and intellectual stimulation, children need social connections. But Homelander's caregivers were fixated on supernatural progress, not building empathy. He was forced to endure torture, enduring blazing fire, surviving underwater for hours, and violent attacks. His body was cut, burned, and frozen. Aside from a soft blue blanket to cling to, Homelander could find no comfort or ease his pain. After repeated tests of endurance and torture, he was not relieved, healed, or even hugged. As a young boy, Homelander looked up to his science supervisors. When he was about 5 or 6 years old, Dr. Vogelbaum recalls, he was very sweet. He snuggled up to me. The doctor, however, refused these soothing requests for affection and bonding, explaining that this was the time he was working on the boy and that Homelander did not even want it. This grooming, exploitation, and non-consensual display of his body by a familiar adult led Homelander to develop confusing psychological constructs of love. Despite the common assumption that narcissists and psychopaths do not feel emotions, most people with extreme manifestations of this condition are not completely cold and uncaring. Homelander wants to be loved and cared for, and although his efforts often lead to hurting or abusing others, he lives with the consequences. Homelander is also regularly aware of his repulsive traits, that those who really know him, like Maeve, are basically disgusted by him. In his quiet solitude, he is sad and ashamed of the person he has become. Homelander is reminded of his difficult origins during a publicity stunt in which he visits his childhood home. In front of the cameras, he tells the intimate stories he has been taught, down to the details about his parents, his bedroom, and his birthdays. He is forced to talk about a family he never knew, toys he never played with, books he never read. When he encounters the blue blanket in the lab that was his only comfort as a child, Homelander is crushed by sadness. Angry at the intrusive traumatic memories associated with the blanket, he turns to his caregivers, but they are more interested in a photo op. He returns to the script as instructed, but as he describes his fake childhood, he is actually able to conjure up the details of his own fantasy, and for a moment enjoys the false memories of a safe, happy, loving childhood he never had. When Homelander visits Dr. Vogelbaum in private, the doctor confesses that Becca Butcher, the woman who sexually abused Homelander, has become pregnant with his child. Vogelbaum paints a horrific picture of Becca being killed by the baby during delivery and the baby dying shortly thereafter. Although Vogelbaum remains cold and distant towards Homelander, he offers his version of an apology. He compares Homelander's upbringing to crossing dogs and explains that cruelty is always involved in experiments. They should have been raised in a family, Vogelbaum laments, but when Homelander claims to be the most powerful superhero of them all, Dr. Vogelbaum reacts with contempt and disappointment. This interaction with Homelander was another experience of rejection and rebuff, and because Vogelbaum is like a father to him, he has lasting effects. Homelander constantly fights back against feelings of dissatisfaction, rejection, unworthiness, and distrust of the world. Although outwardly he appears confident, independent, and perfect, his self-talk is tinged with doubt. He attempts to unstuff himself by pushing emotions aside and repressing unwanted feelings. But this coping technique of stuffing is only temporarily effective. After his father's affirming and biting words, Homelander could no longer deny his shame and sadness. He is a mistake. People with both types of narcissism, grandiose narcissism and vulnerable narcissism, usually do not overcome their problems on their own. Paradoxically, they believe they are superior to others, but without them, they are nothing. The Homelander will continue to seek approval, affection, and love from others in a disruptive, desperate, and reckless manner. Narcissists like Homelander are often unable or unwilling to admit weakness or understand the impact of their behavior on those around them. His attitude of entitlement, his tendency to erupt into an explosive outburst at the slightest provocation, feels good in the moment because it alleviates feelings of shame. In the long run, however, Homelander's erratic behavior will push others away and possibly jeopardize his position as leader of the Seven. The failure of all his relationships makes Homelander return to the love he can count on, his fans. He wears a blank stare and a sugary smile like one wears a suit. The echoes of applause and cheers fill his empty soul, pumping false confidence back into his Compound V-infused bloodstream. Ethical science is about consent, but none of Homelander's treatments and experiments were approved or desired by him. It wasn't human. These ordeals taught him that he doesn't belong to himself, that he's possessed by thought, despite the most powerful abilities at his disposal. Homelander lives in a nightmare that no one else can understand, reenacting the experiments in the lab and reliving the emptiness of the tiny room and the loneliness of the blue ceiling over and over again. So yeah, that's all about the Homelander phenomenon. If you have any other opinions about it, you can of course tell us about it down in the comment section. And for more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, A.O.D. See you guys in the next video, and goodbye.